Welcome back to Target Score Pod Vancouver. It is Chris Wiggins on the sidelines with the CEBL. You know the guy on the other side of the screen is Andrew Savory, play-by-play with the Vancouver Bandits. We are back, episode 8. I was just on with Winnipeg earlier today. It is Canada Day, by the way, as we record. Happy Canada Day. But yeah, I was just on with Winnipeg and Joey Slattery earlier today, and I said I cannot believe we're over the halfway point of the CEBL season. We say it every summer, but here we are. Make sure you follow along at Target Score Pod on social media, on Instagram, and then we are Target Score Podcast at Target Score Podcast on YouTube. Follow along, subscribe, like, do what you do, and get us where you get all your podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, the works. Welcome back. First of all, first things first, the man I'm looking at and the man on the other end of the microphone that you're listening to is now a married man. So congratulations, Mr. Andrew Savory. Watch what finger you put up there. Okay, yeah. He's
How to think about it.
Congratulations. You and I both missed the game on Saturday. I was covering the BC Lions. You were getting hitched. I hope everything went swimmingly. I saw some pictures, and the celebrations looked fantastic. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was tremendous. And I'd be lying if I didn't admit that the Bandits game did come out on a few mobile phones throughout the evening. So we were following along, and it was a nice extra wedding present.
Of course, man. Of course. I saw, lots of former and current Bandits employees on the dance floor and, huddled around your cell phone or whatever watching that game. But what a way to bounce back after getting pounded by the Winnipeg Sea Bears in Winnipeg. A couple weeks later, week and a half later, they turn around and they stick it to them with a great victory. And again, I said this last week to Joey Slattery in Winnipeg. I was like, this is a must-win game for Vancouver, especially after getting hit the way they did in Winnipeg. And admittedly, didn't watch the entire game because I was in Kelowna covering the BC Lions. But I heard it was a fantastic game. Jarkel Joyner did his thing again, and Rans Brempong continues to be undefeated as we wait for Kyle Julius to get back to his hot seat. So, yeah, what a great game against Winnipeg. What were your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, I want to give the flowers to Rans. Not an easy position. Obviously, Coach Kyle is serving a 3-game suspension right now. But with Coach Rans, this is a team that's had some defensive issues throughout the year. And his first 2 professional coaching debut in the follow-up, 2-0 start. But both wins where you've held the opponent under 90 points, something the Bandits have actually rarely done throughout this year. Obviously, Kyle is obviously a coach who prides himself on defense, but they've had a few personnel changes. And this second victory, it got close at the end. Obviously, they had a double-digit lead on Winnipeg, ultimately ends up winning by 6. But you're down to Mitch Creek, you're down to Tyrese Samuel, and you find a way to get it done. Dominic Parolin back into the starting lineup. And you have to make things work with Tevin Brown, fresh off a plane, comes into the lineup. But I also want to point out to people, and I know we'll get into the Lloyd Pandy, Tevin Brown effect in a little bit, but those 2 were teammates for the exact same German Bundesliga club this past year. So they have a lot of familiarity, both former Ottawa Blackjacks as well. So there is some chemistry there coming off their most recent pro-European season. And I thought you saw it on full display. They played through Jarkel, 34 points, only 2 turnovers, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. The way he's scoring is super tremendous. Obviously, we'll see when they get Tyrese back. We're going to talk about Shamar as well. Mitch Creek back later in July. But really impressive stuff from Rans, who clearly has taken a page out of Kyle's book, and I think is coaching in a very similar fashion, and that's why they're off to a 2-0 start under his lead.
Yeah, I had a great chat with Rans just to follow that up today after practice. I just said, what's this all been like for you? Like, this is, not a normal thing to have happen to any team, to have happened to any coach. And he just said, yeah, like, admittedly, the last week and a half's been a whirlwind. I won't lie. Like, it's been a big change. Kyle's such a great leader, but we've, it's like forced us to come together. We've had no choice. And, how we've, sort of divided and conquered the last, few games and week and a half has been really cool to see. Matt, assistant coach Matt's kind of been, he's been working with Kyle over the last 2.5 years closely, in the off season too, in the office. And Matt's kind of been, integrated deeply into Kyle's system, knows it really well. So Matt is kind of taking over the offensive coordinator, if I'm making it into football terms, role. And then Coach Louis is like Mr. Video like expert guy, watches hours and hours of film. So he's their video coordinator, of course, by trade or whatever his, legal, job description is, but he's taken over the defensive, coordinator role. And then Rand said he's like, and I'm just kind of overseeing it all and trying to continue what Kyle has built this season. And when Kyle returns on Sunday, by the way, is a national game against Calgary and should be the end of his suspension. So Kyle should be back, barring any changes on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, to your point, giving Rands his flowers and can't be easy. And it's really cool to see how, this is, it's funny. Like I thought to myself today, like this is going to be that story that brings, maybe Vancouver gets to the mountaintop this year because this event and situation and weirdness has brought them all together, and the chemistry is just kind of climbing up through the roof. So yeah, I mean, great stuff from Rands. I didn't realize either that Shamar, Tevin Brown, and Lloyd Pandy all played together in Ottawa too. So there's lots of, reoccurring chemistry, and I'm learning how small of a world the basketball world is. Americans, Canadians, Euros, guys play in the same leagues. They play, against each other, with each other. And so they've known each other for quite some time. And so it's really cool to see some of these names come back together. But yeah, defensively, I think Lloyd Pandy has really, really taken this team to that level that they've needed to be at, because you and I have talked about it at length. They haven't been the best defensively this season, but Lloyd Pandy is certainly helping.
Certainly have not. And Lloyd Pandy, obviously, you're talking about a U Sports champion, a U Sports MVP. People often question, if they aren't as familiar with this game, like, hey, this is a guy who only averages 7.5 points a game overseas. Why is he going in the starting lineup? Why is he the first guy off the bench? But what he does both on and off the stat sheet, he's going to give you 5 to 10 points a night. He's going to come in for rebounds. I remember that Brampton game that we were both at. He's coming in maybe a 6'4", generous 6'5". And if you're a big and you bring the ball down, he is going to gridlock you immediately and try and rip it out. He can finish with either hand on the fast break, pass first type of guy, but he can also slash as well, get to the hoop. And I just think how coachable he is. He's just an absolute dream. You ask him to play a role. I'm a starter. I'm coming off the bench. He's going to do it. You're not going to get any of the nonsense behind the scenes. And I think after that big 21-point win against Brampton, it's the halfway mark of the year, and you're facing Winnipeg. It's the 2nd to 4 matches. You get each other both twice on their court, twice at LEC. You needed that game badly, and having Pandy step into the role that he did was so crucial. And now you just got to try and take one on Winnipeg's court and then close it out at the end of the season and hopefully take the West if you're Vancouver.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by Tevin Brown's stat line as well against Winnipeg last Saturday. Look, like as you say, the guy comes off of a flight, gets thrown into the mix right away. Almost 35 minutes. He's like 26 seconds shy of 35 minutes. 21 points. Pretty efficient from the floor and from the land beyond as well. A couple of rebounds, couple of assists. And so what do you like from him? I mean, you have probably been following guys like him and guys like Lloyd Pandy a little bit, deeper than I have over the last few years. But I was really impressed by his first game. What do you like from Tevin Brown and what he brings to this team?
I think it's his shot-making ability, but it's also that he's going to play within the offense. He's someone who can shoot off the dribble. He can catch and shoot a little bit as well. I think at 6'5", he gives you a little bit of length. The Bandits are historically a team that does like to play a little bit undersized. We heard when we were talking to Mitch, if Kyle wants me to play center, I'm going to do it. I still think this team could use another big, especially as Grant Shepard has kind of phased out of the lineup a little bit. Obviously, Shaden Smith was active against Winnipeg while they wait for Tyrese. But I don't think it's going to be sustainable if Dominic Parolin has to play too many games as a starter. And I think if Dom doesn't have it going, it would be nice to have another big who could come in there. But I think with Tevin Brown, this is a guy who averages double digits last year with Ottawa. He did the exact same thing in the Bundesliga last year with Germany. But the fact that he found a way to stay on the court, facing a little bit of jet lag, 35 minutes, 21 points, 4 of 11 from deep. But he also didn't take away from Jarkel Joyner, which I think is really important. I think, obviously, with the departure of a Jalen House, it was like, are we getting Jarkel or Jalen tonight? Well, against Winnipeg, you got both. You got 21 from Tevin, and you got 34 from Jarkel. And that's what it's going to take to beat the top teams. It's not who's going to be our alpha tonight. It's can you both produce offensively and defensively and get us this win. You didn't score 100. You didn't have to outrun Winnipeg. You only got 94. You held them to 88. And that's what it's going to take to win a championship.
It's pretty crazy to see that Tevin Brown, and I know it's only about 30 seconds or maybe 60 seconds, but it's kind of crazy to see Tevin Brown have more minutes than Jarkel Joyner against Winnipeg. And yeah, you mentioned it. Jalen House has gone on to pursue different basketball endeavors, whether that be, in the United States or overseas. That's yet to be determined. But I mean, I actually thought, and I said this on this podcast on Winnipeg's show too, I actually thought he never really fit the culture. I thought there were a few times where he was a bit pouty on the end of the bench, and there was some disagreements with him and Kyle that were, from my perspective, behind the bench, listening into timeouts. We're not very great. I thought it was a little toxic. So, Jalen leaves, and Jarkel Joyner, Jalen was great, and he set a new, Vancouver Bandits points in a game record. But I think it's only a matter of time until we get that from Jarkel Joyner. Like, he's been unbelievable. And I had a chance to talk to him at practice today too. I didn't realize that Tyrese Samuel put on his recruiting hat to get Jarkel over the finish line. I know he was on Kyle's radar, but it was interesting. Jarkel was kind of joking today that Tyrese kind of got him over the finish line. And yeah, he's taken over as the go-to guy.
A couple of 905 alum, and I think you and I have talked about it a few times, but Jarkel, obviously, he just always has a positive demeanor. And I think we were going to talk about those huddles. You're facing a 7-0 run from the other team. Maybe you're down double digits. He doesn't lose his composure. I think this is someone who's built for the big game. And I think the fact that he comes in roughly around the quarter mark of the season, and now we're at the halfway point, top 5 in league scoring. He's also top 10 in 3-point accuracy. He's hitting nearly 3 a night, and he's making his teammates better. I think that's something that sometimes Jalen House sacrificed. He can produce for you on offense, but is he going to make people better? And I think Jarkel gives you that because he knows when to turn it on. We've seen a number of target scores start where the Bandits stutter. We saw it a little bit against Brampton. We saw it against Kelowna. And usually when they need someone to score ISO, it's going to be him, but you can also find others with a rock as well. And it's been really nice to see Jarkel come in and take on that role now that Jalen House is gone.
Yeah, you're right. He always has a smile on his face. He always seems like he's having fun out there, whether it's joking around like in between possessions or if there's a timeout or whatever the case may be. And just like that stuff is infectious in sports, like especially coming from your leader, and especially coming from the guy who's going to produce the most for you. It's infectious, and everybody, follows his lead, which is great. This Western Conference is crazy, man. I mean, like Edmonton today, with a win over Calgary. I mean, everybody seems to be beating Calgary, but Edmonton today on Canada Day jumps over Saskatoon. So now it's Vancouver, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Saskatoon as of Canada Day today. So this Western Conference is kind of still up for grabs, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Well, it's just funny. Just as the Mamba were starting to float around 500, they're now back 2 games under 500. Edmonton riding a 3-game winning streak. And I know we're going to talk about this 2-game homestand, Edmonton, Calgary coming in again. But you could never count out a Jordan Baker team. I think when they were 3-5, 3-6, I forget exactly how far it dipped, potentially more than that. But I think it was roughly around that before they started to go on their streak. This is a team that's had some pieces, and it was just a matter of getting things to start to gel. And I think you're starting to see that. Obviously, Nick Hornsby, their all-time leader in a variety of categories. I can't even list them all off, not just team categories, but CEBL categories. Definitely one of the elder statesmen of the CEBL, but there's a reason why. Now that he's back in the lineup, he's a huge part of this 3-game winning streak. And it's not just Jordan Baker, what he does from the sidelines. What Nick brings you on the court, he's almost like quasi-coach on the court at the same time. Yeah. They have some younger, newer faces. And I think with a veteran like Hornsby, who is the consummate leader and surpassed even Baker himself in a number of statistical categories, this is a team that probably the Bandits are going to have to take a little bit more seriously this time around. They lost a tough one on the road in Edmonton. They beat them big time when they came back to LEC. This is not the same squad, and it's going to be a little bit more of a fight. But the Bandits can't afford to make any mistakes now that you're at the tail end, the latter half of the season this Friday.
Yeah, it's crazy to think we're kind of coming down the other side of the hill of this season. Even though we're like just at the top of the hill, kind of going down the other side, but we're still going down. And look, I think this Western Conference is going to shuffle a few more times, right? We're going to see Winnipeg once more this coming weekend. Is a replay of a weekend we had early in the season where Edmonton came on the Friday, Calgary comes on the Sunday. Battle of Alberta all weekend, Battle of BC and Alberta all weekend. But yeah, to your point, I don't think you can take any team lately in this league. Maybe with the exception of Calgary this season, but you never know. Like maybe they show up, and randomly hand you a loss when you don't really need it at the worst time. So you can't really take any team lately. But yeah, it's going to be another. It's going to be another important weekend in the West because we've got Edmonton and Calgary in town this weekend. Who's Winnipeg playing this weekend? I know I was just talking to Joey about that today. I can hear your keyboard hammering away. I'm looking at it as well. Winnipeg is in Edmonton on July 5th. Okay, so that's Monday. No, that's also Sunday. Yeah, so they have a home and home. So this Western Conference could look way different by the time we get to mid next week, and we're recording another one of these episodes. So crazy. But yeah, Edmonton on Friday night, which is our Terry Fox night. Always a great night to see those jerseys come out. And right around Canada Day, which is great. And then our CBC game, our first of two national games this year in Vancouver against Calgary. And I know at the start of the year when they were looking at the calendar and they went, okay, where are we going to put our CBC games? How about halfway through the year with Vancouver and Calgary? It's going to be must-see TV, and Calgary's now 1-13, 1-12, 1-13. So it's just crazy to see that happen when they would have planned for that game to be a banger, and it could be a great game, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of meaningless in the Western standings.
I don't think anyone would have predicted the result of what this season is. Obviously, we hope they can kind of start to inch a little bit back and salvage what they can. Obviously, Coach Diavero coming in for Perry Huang, and just a really tough start to the head coaching career of Perry, and someone who was quite pleasant to work with. Obviously, we got to hang around him on the sidelines for his one visit to LEC. But for this team, you're just trying to salvage a little bit of dignity. You start 1-12. You have that one win. You're back on another losing streak after picking up that win. It's not the culture that Rugsy's accustomed to. You're talking to someone who has gone to a CEBL Western Conference Championship, losing in Montreal, and then going to the CEBL Finals last year. Rugsy was probably hoping to report and fight for a championship. It just does not seem like it's going to be the case this year for Miller Moore. So at this point, I do agree with you that this is a team that I could see them taking something off of a contender in the home stretch, because if you're caught napping, they're probably going to come and punch you in the mouth because they know they're getting disrespected. They know teams could probably think they could put a B squad against them, but you have to be careful with Calgary. I don't think you can ever take a Calgary team lightly. It's a team, a culture, and an ownership group that really wants to win, and they like to be innovative. So Vancouver's going to have to be careful on Sunday as well.
Yeah, 7:00 on Friday night, and then 12:30, a midday matinee between the Calgary Surge in town against the Vancouver Bandits, which is our Indigenous celebration night, which is always a great night too. So that'll be probably a good crowd for a Sunday afternoon, which is awesome. I actually thought we might see another Scarborough loss today. Again, we're recording on Canada Day. There were two games today.
Crazy fourth quarter.
Yeah, crazy fourth quarter. Montreal in Scarborough, and Scarborough hits a game winner, and they win by 2. But I just realized they're going back to Montreal in a couple of days, and so it's a home and home with Montreal and Scarborough. Although Scarborough did not have Miles Powell today, so maybe that is a factor. I would like to think so, and I imagine he'll be back on the 3rd when they play in Montreal. But you never know.
Yeah, and I just want to give him a quick shout out because I know Bandits fans have only seen him once. So we'll wait for what that next matchup between Vancouver and Scarborough is. But I know Tyrese, our guy, reigning Canadian Player of the Year. I think Frank Mitchell has a legitimate shot at 6-man and Canadian Player of the Year. I think right now especially with games played, what he's doing, first guy out the bench. He's got better rebounding numbers. The points are slightly lower, but I think you could be looking at someone who takes the mantle for both. And looking at Scarborough today, they outscored Montreal 30-15 in the fourth quarter. Montreal just kind of blew it. There's no better way to put it. And Scarborough looks pretty unstoppable right now. There's a lot of NBA pedigree guys, Jay Scrubb, Miles Powell. There's others that I'm missing as well. In the East is going to be tough. I think the West, obviously, we've talked about the narrative that's there. But Brampton, after having a tremendous start, dipping a little bit, and they're going to be fighting tooth and nail with Montreal the rest of the way. And if Ottawa can get back to 500, none of those teams are that far away. You don't have the same disparity in the West that you do of the East.
Yeah, I mean, and Scarborough, look, I joked with Joey today when I was recording with Winnipeg. Like, they just keep adding guys that have, like, NBA pedigree, NBA G League pedigree. And, like, you know, they just keep getting scarier and scarier. And, like, clearly they have unlimited budgets. Like, let's be honest. We know who the ownership group is. Like, and so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if someone can take down Scarborough in the East. Look, I mean, I'm okay with the condensed episode this week. I know this week's a little odd. I was away. You were away. You're coming down from a wedding, so I feel like I can let you off the hook this time. But yeah, a shortened version of Target Score Vancouver pod. We don't normally do this, but the last 2 or 3 days in the NBA, like, the trades have been ridiculous. What do you make of what you're seeing across the NBA landscape? I mean, Kawhi coming back to Toronto. Jaylen Brown got dealt to Philadelphia today. I think that's a horrible trade for Boston, unfortunately. Yeah, what are you making about all this, like the classic NBA summer soap opera?
NBA, NHL, both shocking. Obviously, NHL and free agency. And as someone who was at Game 7 where Philadelphia took the dub at TD Garden from Boston, if you had told me that Jaylen Brown, the guy who was unable to get it done in the absence of Jason Tatum, was going to get dealt by the Celtics to the 76ers, and the next day, Jaylen Brown would be saying Embiid's a flopper, and then he's going to the same team with obviously the former MVP who he called a flopper in his next day podcast, I wouldn't have believed you. I don't think the return was anywhere close to what it should have been, especially seeing what the Raptors had to give up for Kawhi. I think Jaylen Brown, obviously Kawhi is a different breed of defender, but Jaylen Brown is a pretty well-regarded defender as well. He's much younger, and I think that you're getting an aging, very aged Paul George and a couple of picks versus what the Raptors gave up for Kawhi.
Yes.
I think the 76ers got, like, honestly, I think they got a slam dunk of a deal. I think people are saying, Raptors, they're like, second best team in the East. I think Philadelphia is now the second best team in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I've never really been a Paul George guy, but I also think he's now, like, his years and, like, and with the Clippers, I feel like we're kind of useless. Yeah, I don't know. I found that one to be really, really strange.
And then LeBron might sign a minimum deal, not to cut you off. That's another narrative.
Totally. So. I was just going to say, and then where does LeBron go? Like, I personally believe he's not going to leave the state of California, just at this state in his life and career and family and all that stuff. Like, you can just easy flight up to Golden State, up to Oakland or wherever they play now. But yeah, I mean, people are saying LeBronto, like, maybe he's taking a minimum and he's going to join forces with Kawhi. Maybe he goes back to Cleveland. I think Minnesota has been talked about. So, like, I mean, if I'm a betting man, I'm picking Golden State. But, I mean, who knows? Like, I
agree with your point. Yeah. I think anyone who's in the twilight of their career is staying where the sun is.
Of course.
And I think that means he's not going back to Miami, but it's usually people in that stage are going South Beach or they're going West Coast. Yeah. And they're going Southwest Coast.
Yeah.
And he's not going to a snowy place like Minnesota. He's not coming to a tundra like Toronto.
No, so. I mean, you saw it with Giannis too. Giannis goes to Miami, right? Like, I mean, a warm, sunny South Beach. Anyways, that's too much NBA talk for this CEBL podcast. Thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for being patient with us again this week. A little bit of a unique schedule with me being with the BC Lions in Kelowna and this guy getting married. So congratulations again. Love that it was a great day for you and Sabrina Savory. It has a ring to it. Sabrina Savory. It does. I like it. Okay. So, Vancouver Bandits, Edmonton on Friday, Terry Fox game, and then, Calgary on Sunday at 12:30. midday tip, and it's our Indigenous night, which is going to be great. Nationally televised on CBC, which is awesome. So make sure you're there. Make sure you're loud. The LAC looks so great on TV. So thanks for joining us again. Target Score Vancouver Pod. Follow along at Target Score Podcast on YouTube, at Target Score Pod on social media, and we'll catch you next time.